Welcome to the Growth Guys Podcast, presented by KinderReeseCoaching.com. This is the #1 podcast for real estate agents who are serious about growing their business. Get the strategies and tactics to grow your business fast while building the lifestyle you dream of. Now, sit back, buckle up, and get ready, because we're about to get real. The Growth Guys Podcast starts right now.
What's up, everybody? It's Jeff Kiani. Welcome to this episode of the Growth Guys Podcast. Really excited to bring you this episode. It's a little bit different than our traditional format. This is what we call our Ask the Growth Guys live call. On a lot of these episodes, you'll hear questions submitted by agents from across the country, either online or in some cases, they might call us live on these episodes. So be sure and look for your opportunity to join in the conversation, and let's get started on today's episode.
Welcome to another episode of Growth Guys. Ask the Growth Guys, a little Q&A. I think we're going to maybe talk a little bit more today. But obviously we'll take any questions that you guys have. For sure.
Yeah, anybody who's got questions, that's what we would love to do, is spend the whole time asking questions. So if you got them, bring them. Otherwise, I think we're going to talk a little bit about strategy today, right, Kitchens?
Yeah, absolutely. And, as you guys are catching this live right now, we've got Agent to CEO live coming up this week, Thursday and Friday here in Plano, Texas. And we're super, super excited. I mean, this is our first time that we've ever done this event. There's a digital version that we rolled out. Kind of a class that we rolled out last year that Jay put together that, hits, I mean, it goes pretty deep, but it doesn't get into the weeds like we're going to over the next couple days. And so, one of the key components that we're really going to bring in and touch on and talk about is really helping people get clear with their strategy. And so, one of the key things that we wanted to share and kind of talk a little bit about today is, what is strategy? What is a good strategy? What is a bad strategy? And, really wanted to chat and spend a little bit of time that way. Just got to give you some context. So I know we wanted to share from the workbook that we've got put together, and we're super excited. This, like I said, this is we really haven't rolled all of this content out in one event ever. Most of this stuff is what our clients, our one-on-one coaching clients, and some of even our one-on-one coaching clients, Jeff, don't even get to this level of content. Most of our masterminds do, just because they've invested more time and more energy and more of a commitment. So we dive a little bit deeper, and they're usually at a higher level than, in our mastermind. They've got a pretty good solid business. They're getting close to that, million GCI mark. So they've got different problems than somebody trying to, figure out where their next deal is going to come from. But it's a great content, great framework. And we definitely wanted to kind of share a little bit with you guys today.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I'll just let you kind of take it, John. I'm watching Facebook, and we'll watch the chat box. If anybody has any questions, no matter what it's about, whether it's about marketing, lead gen, prospecting, presentation, something to do with the contract to close process, hiring your next assistant, whatever it is, that's what these calls are designed for, to let you get a chance to get that out on the table. So drop a question, a comment on Facebook. Drop a chat and those of you that are logged on with us through the registration link, and we'll answer it. But go ahead, Kitch.
You got it, man. So just want to kind of pull and share from the Agent to CEO live workbook, and really on the point here where we're talking about strategy and going through that process. And so from good strategy, bad strategy, kind of breaks it out and talks about good strategy is rare, that many organizations claim to have a strategy. They do not. Instead, they have a set of performance goals, or worse, a set of vague aspirations. It's rare because they are, strong forces resisting the concentration of action and resources. Good strategy gathers power from its very rareness. So bad strategy occurs when there is a bad doctrine, which hard choices are avoided, and or when leaders are unwilling or unable to define and explain the nature of the challenge. And, really avoiding to look deep, right? So just kind of out of the book here just for a second, Jeff, kind of talking back through good strategy, bad strategy. And what we reveal, we can heal. And where leaders fail with this is that they conceal, right? They won't reveal and let everything come out and then be able to work through in a solution oriented and try to solve the problem, right? Try to solve the right problem. And, we talk a lot about even with leaders and probably on previous podcasts, we might have even touched on this a little bit, but, we see and we hear, how leaders want to create, more, give more autonomy, give more to their people to make better decisions, but yet they don't lay all the cards out on the table to know what the players are dealing with. And, a lot of it really hides on the financial side of things, right? A lot of people they want to conceal it. And once they reveal it, then you get the whole team on board to be able to think through what are some great solutions to help solve the right problem. And that's really what it breaks down to, right? So kind of diving back in a little bit, strategy is just designing a way to deal with the challenge. So a good strategy, therefore, must identify the challenge to be overcome. And then what is the way that we're going to overcome it? And so when you think about it, that, really a good strategy contains three key elements: a diagnosis, okay, a guiding policy, and a coherent action. So a diagnosis defines the challenge. What's stopping us from achieving our goals? It really simplifies the overwhelming complexity of things to a simpler story. Can be used a great metaphor, analogy, can just really, how do we reframe it to where it really connects for everybody? So define the challenge, what is going on? What's the guiding light? What's our approach to deal with the obstacle that we identified? It's the guardrails on the highway, right? That dividing little thing that they've got in the middle, right? So you don't cross over the highways anymore. So what is that that directs and gets us to stay and to deal with action? And then what is the action? How are we going to carry out what it is that we need to do to solve the challenge ahead? And I think one of the biggest things too, Jeff, and you can chime in on this, is that so many people get, they're just like, you throw strategy around and it just like floats right over their head. And so when you understand it really in the essence, what's the problem and are we solving the right problem? What's the goal? What are we trying to achieve? What's going on here? And really thinking through, are we focused on, are we solving the right problem? Are we achieving, diving towards, the outcomes and the things that we're after?
Yeah. So in my mind, I think it's important to understand that strategy is different from the action. And I think a lot of people get focused on the action and they're not thinking so much about the strategy and the big picture. In layman terms, what we're talking about here is the big picture, and the actions that you take on a daily basis need to be ones that will lead you closer to whatever the destination is in the way of the big picture. And sometimes there's plenty of action. There's a lot more actions that you can take than there are those that actually move you closer to the goal. And that's the challenge, is making sure that everybody is spending as much time, even if it's just you. And I'm going to ask you to break this down in a real world situation here that will help, I think, some listeners. But, trying to break it down to that extent where that the actions are different than the strategy, then it's getting everybody to understand clearly what the strategy is. And that's going to be in large part repetition of certain actions. But if you don't know how they plug into the big picture, then I think it's difficult for yourself whether it's you making calls to expireds every day. I mean, if you measure that on a day-by-day basis and you don't understand how it is a part of a strategy to build your business, then it's going to be tough to adhere to it. Just like meeting rhythms, and if you have a team, getting people to stay accountable to the goal. If they don't understand the strategy, like you mentioned, Kitchens, bringing people in and understanding all the moving parts so that they fully buy in and they're part of the creation of the goal, they're part of the creation of the strategy. If they don't know what that is, then they're handicapped. And it's kind of like a football team, man. You know, you got an offense and a defense, but they both have the same goal. And I couldn't imagine a situation where the offense doesn't know what the defense is supposed to do to get the outcome, right? Both sides, whether you play on offense or you play on defense, you understand what the overall strategy is, and you know what the defense is doing if you're on offense and vice versa, because everybody's included.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, 100%. I mean, you know, in most teams and agents we work with, you know, they're in the smaller capacity to where, you know, there's 4, 5, 6 of them, 8 of them max, you know, and then, you know, it flips, right? You get into, you know, starts getting double digits and it starts to grow from there. And, you know, obviously the game changes, but early on, you know, a lot of it, you know, there's no reason to hide anything from any of your people, right? They need to understand, you know, what it is that we're trying to accomplish and understand the facts, right? Once we have the facts, and we know where we want to go, then it's closing the gap, right? So how do we go from A to B, and, you know, knowing where we're at to knowing where we want to go, and then that's the gap. And we just got to put the plan in place to get there, right? So that becomes the, you know, what is it that we're going to do, right? What is it that we're going to do? More importantly, why the heck do we want to do that?
Right.
When are we going to do it? And then the how, right? I think that's where a lot of people get tripped up. And that's what you were just saying, is that they just dive right into the how without trying to figure out what the heck it is that we want to do. And more importantly, trying to figure out what it is, what's the goal? What are we trying to accomplish? And, you know, I mean, that's that's like the number one question that we always hear, like in all of our meetings and all of our conversations. It's like, man, what's the goal? What are we trying to accomplish? Right? Where's the constraint? Is that really the goal? What's the constraint? Okay. So what's the plan to remove that constraint? And that's a good strategy, right? If we're solving the problems to accomplish the goals that we're wanting to accomplish for the business, we're clear on why we want to do it. We're clear on when we're going to get it done by, and then, you know, the how will come. And you just continue to iterate, man. It's just an iteration process. You're learning, gathering information, you're measuring, and you're making adjustments. And, you know, is sometimes a good strategy, you know, sometimes, you know, going to potentially take you down and you're, you know, digging in a wrong hole. Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, if you're in a good meeting rhythm, like you shared, like you just mentioned, then, you know, you'll have a time to step back and take a look at that and be like, oh man, yeah, that's just creating more of a problem than what it is. So we need to, you know, recalibrate here and focus on, you know, solving the real issue here at hand.
You know, if you're Christopher Columbus and you set out on the Santa Maria, right? And you're headed across the ocean, man, strategy is the plot that you've laid out that you think is going to get you to your destination. Now, the fact is that with winds and currents and everything else, the strategy may change at certain times, but there's always somebody at the wheel who's checking the course so that we can make a course correction, right? If we don't just go to sleep for a day and nobody watches the wheel and the compass, and we wake up tomorrow, and that's what happens if you don't have the meeting rhythm and everything to make sure that your strategy is still on track and it doesn't need to be adjusted, because in some cases you may need to make adjustments. And I think when you get, it's all about the destination. It's all about the goal. It's not emotional. I can't get emotional. And so that's where it's hard to bring other people in. That's where it's hard to be a strategic thinker with yourself, because imagine that there's two parts of yourself. There's the part of yourself that wants to justify your first thought and be right. And then there's the second part of yourself that wants to say, what could be wrong with my first thought? And most people don't want to have a discussion with themselves or anybody else about what could be wrong about that first thought. And so you have to be prepared to ask those questions and understand that the destination is more important than preservation, right? I can look like a fool. I can be wrong. We can all be wrong. Your idea can be better than mine. We can knock over the whole damn thing and start over. It all doesn't matter. And I'm open to it all as long as it gets me to the destination in the most efficient, quickest, profitable, whatever those metrics are that you're trying to measure. If it gets me to the destination and it hits a 10 on those, in those categories, I don't care what it is, right? And that's the thing, is you have to be willing to I mean, I've been in love with stuff that I know doesn't work, right? Like you're in love with something, even though you have the evidence to show that this process doesn't work, but damned if I'm going to let somebody else tell me to do what they're doing.
100%, man. I think, just to kind of emphasize something you said there, man, it's more so, it's not about being right. It's about getting to right. And that's hard for a lot of hard driving entrepreneurs, the D personalities, those that something to try to prove. And it's just like you said, man, strategy is about getting your company, your organization, yourself to move forward. I mean, it's just absolutely, how are we making progress? How are we moving forward? And, making sure that we just don't have a list of priorities that don't support each other, right? Because when that happens, then nothing gets done. And we've seen it, right? It just stalls out your organization, and you're stalled, and nothing's happening to get clear, to get you moving in the direction that we want to continue to keep moving. So, man, it is. It's just getting clear on what it is that we want to accomplish, knowing the challenges that we have to overcome, and that we've got, the actionable items in place to move us forward, move us across the ocean to the destination. That's really encompasses and makes up what a good strategy is versus a bad one.
So can I ask you a question, Kitchens?
Yep, absolutely.
So let's talk about a real world experience. Let's say that we had an agent on our team and we wanted, let's set a conservative goal here. We wanted them to get 10 listings sold by the end of the year, 10 additional listings sold by the end of the year. Here we are starting into August, right? And let's say that they're an agent who had the same goal the first 6 months of the year, and they only did 6, right? And so they're not, they didn't hit the first goal. So there's some challenges there. Now we're running into, talking about our strategy to make sure the strategy that we're going to serve for the next 6 months, every morning, every noon, every night, is, am I working this strategy that we're going to spend an hour, 1 week, whatever it takes, right? Until we come up with the strategy that's going to be over the next 6 months. What's that discussion look like? How do you break that down? Like, what do you write down? What would you have somebody go through, and just as best as you can in a short, bite-sized format, walk me through that process?
Yeah, so I think we're clear. We want to get to sounds like we want to double the production essentially from what we've been able to accomplish. We know we want to get there from between now and in the end of the year. And what we have to look at is why is that the goal, right? We want to be crystal clear with that first, right? So why is that important? Why is that the goal? And
okay. Now, can I just then real world? So that's because John, I know my net commission is after pay the brokers. I mean, it's about $2,500, and so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make about $20,000 to $25,000 here before the end of the year, John.
Right. So we're trying to get to that dollar amount. And so we just reverse engineer. So if we know we want to make an additional 25,000, we know you net 2,500, simple math, then that tells us what we need to do 10 deals, right? So we need to do.
And I want to do that because it's my wife's anniversary in February, and we want to go back to where we had our honeymoon 25 years ago. And man, it would blow her socks off, and it would be the most amazing time. That's what I need the extra money for, John.
Perfect. And so we definitely don't want to lose sight of that. So we would want to really, capture that and know why we're putting in the effort that we need to put into to make that possible. So when we look at it, we know 10 deals. We just then would take a look at, Jeff, currently, what are you doing? What are all the activities and all the things that you're doing that, we want to, keep doing, right? What's working for you right now?
Well, last 6 months, I got 2 of those listings that I took came from calling expireds, but I haven't had a whole lot of success doing it. And then, 2 of those were some friends that I knew, just part of my sphere. And really the other 2 just came because I was on both sides of the transaction. So, but what I try to do on a daily basis, John, is I send emails to my database. I try to make a certain number of phone calls every day. I don't always do it. And I rely on my broker to get me some buyer leads, and that's really what I've been living most off of, is the buyer leads.
Cool. So we know we need, it sounds like, identifying a list of the things that we need to keep doing that's working, and probably optimize those things, right? We would want to dive a little bit deeper to just see, are we putting the correct effort into the expired calling? Are we putting enough effort into the opportunities that are coming across our plate that our broker's providing for us, right? What are those things that we need to optimize, that we need to do more of before we stay, hey, let's go do this shiny object, right? That's where a lot of agents get tripped up, is that they get something that starts to work and build some momentum. They've got a good hook in the water, but they're not putting enough of the bait, right? Or they're not dropping the hook deep enough, or they're not getting it out into a location to where the opportunity really is at. So first and foremost, we want to look at what the heck that we're doing that's working, and we want to make sure that we're squeezing all of the juice out of those opportunities. And, if we've got 2 or 3 really good pillars that if we just optimized, it could hit our 10 deals in the next 90 days. Then what are you going to do, Jeff? What is it that you're going to do that's going to push you through, if we hit your goals sooner rather than later? That's another conversation. We'll recalibrate and set that beyond. But in the short term, we want to make sure that we're optimizing and squeezing the juice out of what we're doing that's working. The other question that we want to consider and we want to think about is, what are we not doing? Right? So that would be one of my questions for you to kind of ponder and think about is, man, what the heck are you not doing?
Yeah, I guess I've been asked a couple times to fill in for agents on open houses and stuff. And I've kind of, I've been hesitant to do that. So that's probably something I could do.
Right. And, do the agents around you, have you seen proof that they've had success in structuring and doing the open houses?
Yeah, so I don't know. That's something I could get better at myself. I haven't really hosted that many because I hadn't had that many listings. But
perfect. So
I guess that's an area that I could improve on and see if there's any opportunity in. Perfect.
There's a proven format to optimize and really maximize the traffic to the open houses. Right now, I think you would be Would you agree that a buyer coming through the house that's on their feet and in their car, a lot closer to making a deal happen, to making the cash register ring, than somebody that just filled out an internet inquiry searching for homes online?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that might be one of our key priorities that we would implement in part of the strategy to help us overcome the goal that we're trying to accomplish. Another thing is, what are some of the things that you're doing you need to stop doing?
Yeah, I probably spend an hour to 2 hours a day sending emails that I never get any replies from.
Yeah. Could we use that time maybe sending text messages instead of emails?
That could probably work. I have that feature in my CRM, but I haven't really messed around or learned how to use it.
So optimizing the tools and everything that we have to accomplish, working a little bit smarter, what's working, what's not working. So those are the 3 key things that we would look at right out of the gate that we would want to just take a survey on, right? What are we not doing? that we could start doing? What the heck do we need to stop doing? And then what do you think that we're doing that we need to keep doing, but we need to do better, right? We need to make sure that we're squeezing all of the juices out of there. And really what we're, so this is from a leadership perspective to think about right here too, Jeff, that the process that we're going through is we're creating awareness in what we're doing on a day in and day out basis. So not only good strategy, we know the goal, we know, the problems and what are we going to do to solve it, but we're creating an awareness in ourselves. And once we have that awareness, that, we can make better choices on what it is that we're wanting to accomplish. And where a lot of people, just like you said, man, it's just head down and they're diving in, but they don't really know why they're doing what they're doing. And if they're doing is getting the results that they're after. So we want to create an awareness. And then I think the biggest thing from that awareness too, and this applies to anything, right? This applies to our thinking, is that we create this awareness, but then we have to reflect for a second. And are we going to accept and own where we're at, why we're in the situation we're in? A lot of people be like, okay, well, I'm here. And then, then they, okay, hey, let's take these actions. But they don't take a second to like, man, shit, I'm in this situation 100% because of me, because of nobody else, right? I'm walking in the rain, holding my umbrella in a torrential, in a downpour, and a car splashes me. Is it the car's fault? Hell no, it ain't the car's fault. I'm the guy out in the damn rain with the umbrella getting wet. Of course the car's going to splash me, but I get upset at the car. But in reality, it's I have to own it, right? So that's that 100-0. That's extreme ownership. That's just like, dude, I put myself in this situation. Do I accept it? I'm aware of it. I accept it. And then now I can make the right choices moving me forward to help and want to accomplish the things that, I'm set out to accomplish and get the financial wherewithal, the financial means to, provide that experience that's really driving you at this moment.
Man, I want to talk a little bit about strategy in a different sense, and that's like about running. And you do a lot of training. You've completed your first Ironman, and you're training right now for another one. And I think that there's an intersection here that's kind of unique in some of the things that we're doing and how it still applies to your business as well. And so, I've started running about 3-4 months ago regularly. And so I try to run 20 miles a week. And yesterday I ran 15 miles, Kitchens knows. I sent him a picture and I had sweat blisters on my legs and everything.
Like, is that sweat or is that blisters?
They were blisters, but 15 miles, right? And I'm just out there running. I'm just taking action. Did I plan for that 15-mile run? Not really, except the day before I knew that I needed 14 miles to make my 20. And so, but I didn't plan. I didn't worry about nutrition or anything else, right? I just went out there with a headstrong attitude that I'm going to get it done. And mentally, I prepped myself by spending 4 hours watching Spirit of Marathon and Spirit of Marathon 2, changed my mental state so that I could get my butt out there and go do it. But then I came back, and last night I was reading about, I never spent any time watching stuff about stride and all these other things that come into account if you really want to, run faster and stronger and stuff. And I'm reading this thing about how to plan for like a marathon, for instance, or what's the best mileage to run per week, reading this forum.
Seeking.
And it talks about how, actually just going out there and focusing on mileage is in a lot of cases the worst thing to do. Focusing on the mileage. Now you think, man, if your goal is to run 50 miles, a 50-mile race or something, I could get caught up on thinking that 15-mile run or those long mileage runs are just, that's where it's at, man. And I'm just going to focus on the mileage. That's a bad strategy. I'm just focusing on the action there without putting any attention towards how it would affect the body, and all these other things.
Injury prevention, all the things that go right.
The shorter runs, I'm out there killing myself. That's
great right there for not only yourself and killing yourself, but apply that back to your team, right? What if you're not clear on the activities you need from your team and you're saying, go run as long, hey, I need you to run 15 miles today, right? That's not sustainable, right, for people. So what do you do? What happens with your people, right? So it's the same applies back there to what you were saying. I just wanted, that was just a great connection there for people to connect and connect that back to their, when they're leading their team.
Yeah, and so just intertwine some of the training that you're going through right now for your next Ironman, and kind of intertwine that. I mean, it's you know what you're doing each day. It's everything down to a system of the processes to the overall strategy. Just walk through that, man.
Man, thank you for bringing that up, because this connects the dots. And so it's been February of last year, February of 2018, made the commitment, going through that process of determining, hey, Ironman, going to do Ironman Florida in November. And so start the training process. I'm finding stuff. I'm seeking, I find some online stuff. Man, I don't even have a bike. I haven't swam since ever. I learned how to swim, but most of the time I'm in the water. I've got a beverage in my hand. And okay, I like to run a little bit. I've ran one marathon, and that was the previous year. So it was just kind of thinking through, and okay, what is it going to take to accomplish the goal, right? I think that's where a lot of people get tripped up, is like, man, I'm committed. I'm committed to that thing. And you're like, well, what does that mean? And so, going through that due diligence process. And so thinking about, man, I want to build this business to this level and provide, this income for my life. But what does that mean? And I think when you get clear, kind of figure out what that is, and then figure out why the hell you want to do it. And so, for me, it was a couple things, right? It was one, it was just to push myself, but beyond that, you have to have something when it gets hard that pushes you beyond it, right? That's sustained desire. And it's easy for us sitting right here in the comfort of, our offices to say, man, I want to go do this thing. But just like, when you were out there Sunday and you look down, you got blisters on your legs from the sun and running, it's like, but why? And sustained desire is, getting crystal clear on the bigger outcome, what it is that you're wanting to do it for. And then you have to marry it with one other thing. And this is really important for people, even with their business, to maintain the sustained desire within their business, is that we're all either trying to make somebody proud or we're trying to prove somebody wrong. And either one's okay. And either one works for that sustained desire. And when you marry those two together, then that's where the longevity and where you're going to keep pushing. And so I remember going through, for me, I did my first Ironman for one reason, is because I wanted my kids to be able to say my dad's an Ironman, and that was it. And so I remember on the day of Ironman, man, on the run, I'm on the final third, starting to hurt, like pain, right? Just not exhaustion, but really just kind of starting at some physical ailments. And I just kept telling myself, just saying, I could just picture my kids and the visualization of each of my kids saying, you know what, my dad's an Ironman. My dad's an Ironman. My dad's an Ironman. And that pushed through, right? So you have to, that's why you have to incorporate those things to help you push through the hard times. But looking at understanding what it is wanting to accomplish, I remember seeking out on my own. And then I stumbled upon a better training program, and I tried to do it on my own. I tried to figure it out, and understanding the disciplines, reaching out, getting the right equipment, doing the things so this applies to business, right? Getting the right tools and technologies, understanding the process is what I'm trying to get to. And then I got to a point and I was like, I can't do this. I need help. And then that's when I reached out to a coach, right? And then that's when I incorporated a coach into what I was doing. And the beautiful thing about what coaches do for us, man, is they reveal our blind spots. And they allow us to see things that we can't see ourselves. But then they also help us keep the dang train on the tracks when it gets a little wobbly, right? And so it's just like you were going through. If you were working with a coach and you show those blisters to your coach and you ran 15, your coach would go, what the hell are you doing, man? No. All right. Here's the schedule that we're going to run, but what are we tying it to? Right? Man, are you wanting to build up to run a marathon? Are you wanting to build up to run, an ultra? What the hell are you wanting to do? Are you just running for an enjoyment? Do you want to push long runs? And okay, let's work on this. Hey, Jeff, let's get you a heart rate monitor. Let's maintain heart rate runs. Let's keep you're building in these zones and doing this. And so it's just really getting the right strategic to where you're growing. And so like you're producing the results and the fruit from your effort, right? So like you putting in the effort from your runs and your training and on the bike and kayaking and doing the endurance stuff that you're doing, what is the fruit that it's bearing for you? So the same thing applies to our business. The effort, the energy, the tools, the resources, the investments, the time. What fruit, what profit is that rewarding, right? So it applies the same. And how are we balancing the profits to reinvest back into our growth of our business, but also how are you reinvesting the fruits of your exercise, your endurance to make you stronger, to push you even further. So I think those are some really amazing correlations when you look at, understanding the whole process and system. And like you said, man, like I know exactly to the detail of what gets programmed on this little thing every day to tell me what I need to do from running, biking, or swimming down to, the second. And so, man, it's just, it allows me, because I know I got the right strategy, to where I don't have to think about it. Now I get to go execute.
Yeah. It's, you talked about coaches keeping you on track. I was watching Spirit a Marathon, great documentary. And it follows these people as they get preparing for the Chicago Marathon. And there's this one lady, I mean, she's kind of, I would not want to be running next to this girl. She like talks the whole time and she's like, yeah, come on. And like, it's just like, I just want to be in my zone. But anyhow, she's going in her husband is her coach. And constantly he's having to tell her, slow down. Oh, I want to go faster. I want to go faster. And, in real life, I see a big correlation there. Sometimes you get caught up and, you are doing something really good, or you have momentum in a certain area and you want to just push it too hard where maybe there's going to be some consequences in other areas or something. And a coach kind of helps you keep it on track and, hey, slow your roll a little bit, right? Let's just stick to what got us here. Yep. Stick to what got us here. You know what I mean? So that's a big correlation there. And I was going to say, oh, shoot, man. Gosh.
But you think you're running, you're ready to lace them up and hit the pavement.
Oh, I know what I was going to say is, going back to the why. Why I went out and ran the 15 and why I like to go kayak halfway across, Lake Grapevine and why I like to get on my bike is because it's like authentic to me, man. I grew up in California and I just like doing stuff outdoors and I kind of, I get excited about that kind of rugged stuff and like I will do it. You don't need to pay me. You don't need to do whatever. You can tell me that I'm going to get blisters. That makes it actually more attractive to me. Like, you know what I mean? And because it's so like, that's my why. I just want to do it. Right. It makes me feel whatever. And you need to find a way to connect what you're doing in business to that same exact thing, because I'll go out there then and knock on 50 doors if it's a good idea, or I'll make the 50 calls, or I'll do the same boring thing over and over, like going out and running every day, because it's just authentic to me, man, and I love it. You can hate it, but I love it. And then let somebody come over and tell me, man, that's stupid. Running's a stupid idea, or, doing what you're doing in your business, you found a way to love. Just because I don't love it, I'm going to tell you it's a stupid idea and you need to stop doing it. You need to do what I'm doing. Don't fall for those traps. Absolutely.
And, I would say another thing too, when we're working through strategy, just giving that example of the gentleman that, the scenario you painted for wanting to, hit 10 closed transactions, or more importantly, hitting that dollar amount, because there's ways to impact the average transaction. So we would want to uncover that. Jeff, if I could get you to the same dollar amount doing 7 deals versus 10, would that excite you? Right. And so the answer is of course.
Right. And how would we do that? How would you do
how
that?
Would you do that? Right. So then we would work through the hows to accomplish that. But the other thing that we would want to go through is talk a little SWOT. We would want to talk a little strengths. We would want to talk a little bit of weaknesses. We want to talk a little bit of opportunities. We would want to talk a little bit of threats. And this is the same thing, even applying on the whole Ironman. When I first started working with my coach, he was like, I need an assessment, bro. I need to know what are your strengths? What are your highlights? Hey, let's take some tests. Go run a 5K, time it, get that back. Hey, make sure you got the heart rate so we can measure that. Hey, get on the bike, go 15 miles hard, and let's measure that. Hey, get in the pool, swim as fast as you can for 400 yards and 200 yards. Let's measure that. Let's see where you're at. Let's identify your strengths. Let's also see where you're weak, right? To where we need to improve. It's just like you said, injury prevention. Hey, you're running with your foot out a little bit. Hey, Jeff, let's focus on that a little bit so it'll keep your knees and your hips and keep everything in line so you don't have a knee injury, right? So it's just working through those things. Within SWOT, what we really look at too is strengths and weaknesses are internally within your business. Opportunities and threats are external. And so going back to the Ironman story, so I had signed up for Ironman Florida, which was going to be in November of last year, and unfortunately, Hurricane Michael came through and took out all of Panama City Beach, where they host the Ironman Florida event. And so, that's real, right? I mean, you do these events outside. I mean, you have to prepare for stuff like that, right? The elements and, what's going to be going on. So at that time, I had a conversation. They moved Ironman Florida over to by Orlando, and it just wasn't the same experience. It's not what I signed up for. And so talking with my coach, he's like, man, he goes, and at this time I've been training since February, but I'd only worked with him for like 3 months. So that told you how much banging my head against the wall. And he said, hey, let's move it. Let's take the deferment. Let's do Ironman Texas in April. That'll get, I get 6 more months of working with you and really getting you prepared and getting you to put in some extra work and put in the right work. And said, okay. Right. And so that was an opportunity. Those the outside elements was a threat that this was going to be that kind of experience, but here was an opportunity. And so we honed that extra time and made it a strength. And it was excruciating 6 months, but what it was that I had an incredible experience. And the reason I signed up for 3 more Ironmen, right? 4 Ironmen in 13 months. That's what it's going to be. And so it's why you understand, man, you have the right strategy, the right game plan, and you put in the work. Game day is fun, right? Game day is fun. And that's, for me, the Ironman experience itself was amazing. It was an incredible experience. And I shared this with you. The only reason it was an incredible experience is because the work sucked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember you distinctly saying that, how it was easy because the work was so hard. So, and your coach prepared you for that so that you could enjoy the race and enjoy the experience and not be just trying to get through it, right? Be able to
the fruits of it, right? So I think the same thing applies back to your business. Is just like you said, man. Did I want to get up and run? Did I want to get up and swim? Did I get up and bike? Did I want to go hit the gym and get some lifts and stuff in? Hell no, right? That sucked. And sometimes it was boring. It was not fun. And so go back to the things that make the real estate side of things successful. It's boring, same things, right? That's why people we were talking about not squeezing the juice out of what they're already doing, not optimizing what's working, is because they get bored with it, right? They got something that works, they get bored with it. They won't keep doing it or doing it better or adding additional components, additional things to it, and they give up on it. And so when you fall in love, it's habits, right? When you have the right habits And in this business, I mean, what are the boring success habits that drive the results, right? Get comfortable with picking up the damn phone, right? Having a conversation.
Yeah.
Sending the text messages, sending the messages, doing the boring things that really drive the results. Fall in love with it, man. That's all I can keep saying. And I mean, it better from a sales perspective. You can preach on this all day long, and where people give up just because they can't fall in love with the boring stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, stretching, like everything, you got to have the deeper why. Like it facilitates the lifestyle that you want to live. I mean, that's the easiest way to say it. How bad do you want whatever it is that you want? Because there is something that you want bad enough that you would do whatever for. There is something. It just may not be what, you need to reposition. You need to come up with something else, or you need to come up with multiple things, right? I mean, if I said that there was $5 million across the street in a bag and you had to dodge a couple cars to go get it, and you wouldn't hesitate at all. You'd go run out there and you dodge a couple calls, but you won't sit in an air-conditioned office and call some people in your database and ask them if you can come by this weekend. Like, what? You know what I mean? So how come there's a difference there? Or, you're not willing to have a discussion with somebody on your team, even though the lack of performance or the lack of alignment to the core values is costing you opportunities and money, but you'd have a discussion at home with your wife about something that you really didn't like that she was doing, like, because, that represents something that you're willing to invest more into. So you've got to connect what you're doing in business to something that means a lot and that you're willing to invest. I mean, your capital, your time and your effort is the most prized possession and currency that you have. And so if you're going to, hey, I get it. Like, I'm not going to invest my hard-earned capital into something that I don't think is, important. But if you can connect it for me to something, if you tell me like, man, Jeff, how you love it when you're out there and your feet are hitting the ground, man, like a mile into it, like it sucks, but remember how that feels? Then you're like, man, remember when you hit 6 miles and that was your goal, but you're like, man, I kind of want to just keep it going a little bit, like that's that natural feeling that you just need to feed. And if you tell me that, then I'll invest those moments that it takes to do the hard thing and get out the door, right? But you got to connect it for me, and unfortunately we have to do that for ourselves. Unless you have a coach who can do it for you, most of us are trying to make that connection ourselves. And every day it's like we're trying to make it anew. It's like Groundhog Day, and every day we're like trying to, what's today about again? And and what it was about yesterday isn't what it's about today, because we're not really clear on the strategy. So speaking of which, I know Coach made a big impact for you in completing your Ironman. And so before we sign off for today, where can people go to learn more about working with you as a coach, Kitchens, and just overall working with the Kinder Reese team?
Yeah, man, KinderReeseCoaching.com, man. We put together a great video there that walks you through, what it looks like to have, get to work together. And so, man, it's worth the investment of time to sit down and watch that. And, if you're really committed and serious about taking your business to another level, because, how it's going to serve not only yourself to be able to have the impact that you're wanting to have, it's worth sitting down, notepad, and kind of sitting down and listening to that video over at KinderReeseCoaching.com. Well,
I appreciate you sharing some of your Ironman story with us.
Always fun to share those stories.
There's a crossroads there that we went to, and it was perfect. So I appreciate that, man. And we'll sign off today. Any final words, Kitch?
Nope. Just, really it's getting clear on what it is that you're wanting to accomplish, man. Everything's uphill, and you've got to have the right game plan. You got to have the right people to help you climb that hill each and every day. So check it out, KinderReeseCoaching.com, and look forward to connecting with you guys soon.
All right. See you next time, guys.
Yeah.
To find out how to build a 7-figure real estate business in 3 years or less, go to kinderreescoaching.com. You've been listening to the Growth Guys podcast. If you want us to help you grow your real estate business, go to kinderreescoaching.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the Growth Guys podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast fix to get new, fresh weekly episodes. Catch you next time on the Growth Guys podcast.